What if I told you that Silicon Valley, the beating technological heart of America, the place where the future is invented, has been quietly, strategically, and profoundly shaped by a group of extraordinary families who crossed oceans with nothing but ambition and intellect? In 2025, as artificial intelligence reshapes every industry on Earth and trillion-dollar chip companies determine the fate of nations, a remarkable pattern has emerged at the very highest levels of American technology wealth. Chinese American entrepreneurs and their families don't just participate in this revolution, they architect it, control it, and increasingly define what comes next. This isn't simply a list of wealthy individuals. This is a deep exploration into the minds, the strategies, and the relentless determination behind some of the most powerful technology dynasties in the modern world. We will count down the top 10, examining their origins. From a child sent to a reform school in Kentucky to a young immigrant whose visa was rejected 8 times before he finally made it to America. From founders who lost everything in a single day to become multi-billionaires, to a young prodigy who dropped out of MIT to build a company now worth tens of billions. These are the stories of families who turned crisis into opportunity, who saw futures that others couldn't imagine, and who built companies that now form the essential infrastructure of our digital lives. The semiconductors in your phone, the memory in your laptop, the video calls connecting your family, the cybersecurity protecting your data, the very chips training artificial intelligence itself. Behind all of it, you will find the names on this list. We'll uncover how they navigated the treacherous path from immigrant outsider to industry titan. We'll examine the specific strategic decisions that created billions in wealth. And we'll see how their families, spouses, children, siblings, weren't merely spectators, but essential partners in building these empires. Understand that this is more than a story about money. It is a story about vision in the face of uncertainty, about persistence through rejection, and about a specific immigrant mindset that has produced some of the most formidable family fortunes in human history. Stick around, because the story you will hear at number 1 will fundamentally change the way you think about what's possible when talent, timing, and sheer determination converge. The numbers will astonish you. The journeys will inspire you. Let's begin. Coming in at number 10 on our list is a pioneer who revolutionized how an entire nation plays, reads, and consumes entertainment. Chen Tianqiao didn't just build a company. He fundamentally transformed the digital habits of over 1 billion people, then quietly reinvented himself as one of America's largest foreign landowners and a champion of unlocking the mysteries of the human brain. Born in 1973 in Xinjiang County, Zhejiang Province, Chen grew up in a household that valued education above all else. His father was an engineer, his mother, a middle school English teacher. That foundation of intellectual rigor would serve him well. He earned his degree in economics from the prestigious Fudan University in 1993, then climbed the corporate ladder at Shanghai Lujiazui Group, eventually becoming secretary to the chairman. But Chen wasn't built for corporate bureaucracy. He was built to create. In 1999, with members of his own family by his side, he founded Shanda Interactive Entertainment. The timing was perfect. China stood at the threshold of an internet revolution, and Chen saw something others missed. He understood that online gaming wasn't merely entertainment, it was the future of how hundreds of millions of people would spend their time and money. Within 5 years, Shanda had become the largest internet company in China by market capitalization. The company listed on NASDAQ, raising $152 million and announcing to the world that Chinese technology had arrived. But Chen's vision extended beyond gaming. He is credited with pioneering the online literature industry in China, recognizing that digital platforms could transform how stories were told and consumed. He wasn't just riding a wave, he was creating entirely new oceans. Then came the pivot that would define the second act of his remarkable life. In 2012, Chen took Shanda private, retaining a 57% stake with his wife Chrissy and his brother. He sold all stakes in Shanda Games by 2014 and transformed his company into an investment powerhouse, becoming majority shareholder in firms like Legg Mason and Lending Club. But his most stunning move came in 2015, when he acquired over 198,000 acres of timberland in Oregon for $85 million, making him one of the largest foreign landowners in America and the 82nd largest property owner in the entire United States. The Chen family relocated from Shanghai to Singapore in 2009, then to the heart of Silicon Valley itself, settling in Menlo Park, California in 2017. And in 2016, Chen and his wife Chrissy donated $115 million to establish the Tianqiao and Chrissy Chen Institute for Neuroscience at the California Institute of Technology. From gaming mogul to land baron to brain science philanthropist, Chen Tianqiao's transformation shows one powerful path to lasting wealth: build an empire, sell at the peak, and diversify into assets that endure for generations. But our next entry built their fortune by solving one of the most complex and consequential challenges in modern technology: the cybersecurity of an increasingly connected and vulnerable world. At number 9, we have a pair of brothers whose obsession with network security has created a cybersecurity empire protecting over 70% of Fortune 100 companies and made them both billionaires in the process. Kin Xie and Michael Zai are the masterminds behind Fortinet, and their story begins in the laboratories of China's most elite university. Ken was born and raised in China to academic parents who hoped their brilliant son would return home to become a professor. He graduated from the prestigious Tsinghua University with both bachelor's and master's degrees in electrical engineering, then moved to the United States for further education at Stanford. It was there, surrounded by aspiring entrepreneurs and the intoxicating energy of Silicon Valley, that Ken caught a different vision for his future. He founded his first cybersecurity company, Systems Integration Solutions, in 1993. Then, in 1996, he co-founded NetScreen Technologies and built the first ASIC-based firewall appliance, a revolutionary approach that used custom silicon to dramatically accelerate network security. When Juniper Networks acquired NetScreen in 2004 for $4 billion in stock, most entrepreneurs would have retired to a life of leisure. Ken Xie was just getting started. That same year, Ken and his brother Michael founded Fortinet with a bold thesis: security must be embedded in end-to-end computing and networking infrastructure. Michael, who had worked as a software architect at NetScreen and held degrees from both Tsinghua University and the University of Manitoba, became president and chief technology officer. The brothers launched their first FortiGate products in 2002 and took the company public on NASDAQ in 2009 at a valuation of roughly $800 million. What happened next was extraordinary. By 2024, Fortinet's valuation had soared to approximately $50 billion, a more than 60-fold increase. Revenue reached $5.3 billion in 2023. The company's proprietary ASIC technology gave it an almost unfair advantage, capturing over 50% market share in unit shipments and becoming number 1 in network security revenue. Today, Fortinet protects approximately 70% of Fortune 100 companies and governments around the world. Ken Xie's net worth now stands at approximately $6.8 billion. Michael Xie's fortune exceeds $4.5 billion. Together, They run a private foundation and continue to shape cybersecurity policy at the highest levels, with Ken participating as a discussion leader at the World Economic Forum in Davos. The Xi brothers prove that mastery of a specific technical domain can generate massive wealth when combined with entrepreneurial drive and the courage to build not just once, but again and again. Our next entry, however, shows a completely different model. Two immigrant friends who lost absolutely everything in a single catastrophic day, then built a fortune from the ashes that would eventually dwarf what they lost many times over. At number 8, we have perhaps the most remarkable comeback story in Silicon Valley history. John Tu and David Sun didn't just survive failure. They transformed total financial devastation into one of the largest family fortunes in American technology. John Tu was born in 1941 in Chongqing, China, the son of an official in China's nationalist government. As the Chinese Civil War reached the coast, his family fled first to Shanghai in 1945, then to Taiwan 2 years later. Tu eventually moved to West Germany in 1960 to study electrical engineering, completing an apprenticeship at a shipbuilding factory before graduating from the Technical University of Darmstadt. He immigrated to the United States and settled in Los Angeles, where fate would introduce him to his future partner. David Sun was born in Taiwan in 1951 and graduated from Tatung University before immigrating to America in 1977. Working as an engineer at electronic component maker Alpha Micro in Los Angeles, he met John Tu through a mutual friend. The two bonded over a shared love of basketball and an unshakable entrepreneurial spirit. In 1982, they co-founded Camonton Corporation, building memory expansion modules in David's garage. 4 years later, they sold the company to AST Research for $6 million. Life was good. The American dream had delivered. Then came October 19th, 1987. Black Monday. The stock market lost 22.6% of its value in a single day, the largest single-day percentage decline in history. Tu and Sun had invested all their proceeds from the Camonton sale in the stock market. Their broker had been experimenting with futures trading. When the phone rang, the news was catastrophic. They hadn't just lost everything. They had lost $1 million more than they even had. John Tu was 43 years old. His wife had just given birth to their first child. They couldn't tell anyone about their loss, not even their families. But here is where the story transforms from tragedy to triumph. That very same week, a friend called David Sun with a simple question. Why did the memory in his new computer cost twice as much as the memory in his old one? Sun investigated and discovered that manufacturers had begun mounting memory chips vertically on sticks, rather than flat on the motherboard. The technology was identical, only the form factor had changed. Sun retreated to his garage with a soldering gun and emerged with memory modules mounted on sticks. He sold his first one for $300, the second for $325. By the 10th module, he was charging $500 and sprinting back to make more. Kingston Technology was born with just $4,000 in capital, named after the Kingston Trio, one of Tu's favorite bands. Tu reportedly bet David a Jaguar that the company wouldn't last its first year. He lost that bet spectacularly. Within their first year, revenue reached $15 million. Apple became an early major customer. By 1996, Kingston had grown so valuable that Japanese telecom giant SoftBank purchased 80% of the company for $1.5 billion. What Tu and Sun did next became legendary in Silicon Valley. They distributed $100 million of the proceeds directly to their employees. The generosity made national headlines and cemented their reputation as founders who genuinely valued the people who built their company. Then, in 1999, When demand for memory products temporarily shrank, they bought back SoftBank's stake for just $450 million. The decision to repurchase proved brilliantly prescient. Today, Kingston Technology stands as the world's largest independent manufacturer of memory products. Fiscal year 2024 revenue reached $14 billion. The company ranks 29th on Forbes' list of America's top private companies. John Tu, now in his 80s, still serves as CEO and still plays drums in his rock band, JT and California Dreamin'. David's son remains Chief Operating Officer. Together with their families, they have donated tens of millions to hospitals, universities, and disaster relief efforts. Their combined fortune now exceeds $22 billion. The Tu and Son partnership embodies the immigrant ethos of turning catastrophic failure into spectacular success. Their story proves that the deepest losses can create the foundation for the greatest gains if you have the courage to start again. We're now halfway through our countdown, and the stories are only getting more incredible. The fortunes larger, the journeys more inspiring. We've seen how these remarkable families have meticulously built their empires through digital entertainment, cybersecurity innovation, and memory technology. Each journey is a unique and powerful blueprint for success in the modern age. Now, as we continue toward our top 5, we encounter pioneers who didn't just build successful companies. They shattered barriers and created entirely new categories of technology. At number 7, we have a true trailblazer. The only female co-founder of a major semiconductor company in American history. A woman who went from playing semi-professional basketball in Shanghai to building a multi-billion-dollar chip empire in the heart of Silicon Valley. Weili Dai was born in 1961 in Shanghai, China, where she played semi-professional basketball from age 9 to 14. She was proud of what she called her Michael Jordan layup. At 17, she moved to the United States with her family, arriving in San Francisco speaking no English whatsoever. She carried a Chinese-English dictionary everywhere she went until she mastered the language. Then she enrolled at the University of California, Berkeley, earning a bachelor's degree in computer science. At Berkeley, she met Sehat Sutarja, an Indonesian-born electrical engineering student. They married in 1985 and began building a life together. In 1995, Weili, her husband Sehat, and his brother Pantas founded Marvel Technology Group in Santa Clara, California. The company specialized in semiconductor solutions, and Weili served as president, chief operating officer, and director. When Marvel went public in 2000, it marked a historic milestone. Weili Dai had become the only woman to co-found a major semiconductor company. Under her leadership, Marvel grew to ship over 1 billion chips annually, with revenue reaching $3.5 billion by 2014. Forbes named her one of the 100 most powerful women in the world in 2015. She became the first female commencement speaker in the 143-year history of UC Berkeley's College of Engineering. Newsweek named her one of 150 women who shake the world. The journey was not without setbacks. In 2016, Weili and her husband were ousted from Marvel following an investigation into accounting practices, though no fraud was ever found. The family relocated to Las Vegas, but Weili Dai refused to fade into obscurity. She invested in numerous technology companies and co-founded new ventures, including MeetKai and Silicon Box, a Singapore-based semiconductor company now planning a $3.6 billion chip-making factory in Italy. Her husband Sehat passed away in September 2024, and Weili inherited his stake in Alpha Wave IP Group, valued at $237 million. Her legacy extends far beyond any single company. She remains a fierce advocate for women in STEM and continues to inspire the next generation of female founders. But our next entry takes us to another pioneer, a man who co-created the very blueprint for how the internet itself could be navigated and monetized. Breaking into our top 6 is a name synonymous with the birth of the commercial internet itself. Jerry Yang arrived in America at age 10, knowing only one English word: shoe. He would go on to co-create the first great internet portal and make what some call the best investment an American company has ever made in China. Born Yang Qi-yuan on November 6, 1968 in Taipei, Taiwan, Jerry lost his father when he was just 2 years old. His mother, a professor of English and drama, raised Jerry and his younger brother largely on her own. In 1978, she made the momentous decision to move the family to San Jose, California, where extended family helped care for the boys while she taught English to other immigrants. Jerry took an American name. His mother became Lily, his brother became Ken. The transition was brutal. They were mocked constantly at first. Jerry didn't even recognize the faces on American paper money. But the ridicule only fueled his determination. Within 3 years, Jerry had become fluent in English. He was elected student body president and graduated first in his high school class. Despite working part-time to help support himself, he earned both his bachelor's and master's degrees in electrical engineering from Stanford University in just 4 years. It was at Stanford that Jerry met David Philo, the classmate who would change his life forever. In 1994, while pursuing their doctoral studies, Jerry and David created something that didn't yet have a name. They called it Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web, a directory that helped people navigate the chaotic wilderness of the early internet. As it gained popularity, they renamed it Yahoo. By fall of 1994, the site was attracting 100,000 unique visitors. In April 1995, Sequoia Capital invested $2 million. By April 1996, Yahoo went public with just 49 employees. Jerry Yang was 27 years old. At its peak, Yahoo's market capitalization would reach $130 billion. But Jerry's most consequential decision came from a friendship forged years earlier. In 1997, during his first trip to China, Jerry met a former English teacher and tour guide named Jack Ma. The two walked the Great Wall together, and Jack shared his ambitious vision for Chinese e-commerce. A photograph from that day still hangs in Alibaba's headquarters in Hangzhou. In 2005, under Jerry's direction, Yahoo purchased a 40% stake in Alibaba for $1 billion, plus the assets of Yahoo China. Many questioned the investment. Jerry held firm. The payoff was staggering. In 2012, Yahoo sold a portion of its Alibaba stake for $7.6 billion. The 2014 Alibaba IPO generated an additional $9.4 billion. Eric Jackson, founder of hedge fund Ironfire Capital, called it the best investment an American company has ever made in China. Jerry deserves enormous credit for that. After leaving Yahoo in 2012, Jerry founded AME Cloud Ventures, a venture capital firm whose name derives from the Japanese word for rain, a nod to cloud computing. He has invested in over 50 startups, including Evernote, Wattpad, Wish, and Zoom. He serves on the boards of Cisco, Alibaba, and Workday, and chaired Stanford's Board of Trustees from 2021 to 2025, with his wife Akiko Yamazaki, whom he met during a Stanford exchange program to Japan. Jerry has donated $75 million to Stanford and $25 million to the Asian Art Museum, the largest gift in its history. Together, they co-founded the Asian American Foundation to combat racism against Asian Americans. Jerry Yang's journey from knowing only one English word to creating the blueprint for the internet economy represents the purest form of immigrant success. His investment in Alibaba alone generated more wealth than most companies earn in their entire existence. But as we enter the top 5, we meet entrepreneurs whose companies didn't just ride technological waves. They became the essential infrastructure that connected humanity during its darkest hours. Kicking off our top 5 is a man whose name became a verb during the defining crisis of our era. A man whose United States visa was rejected not once, not twice, but 8 consecutive times before he finally made it to Silicon Valley and created a company that would connect the entire world. Eric Yuan was born on February 20th, 1970 in Tai'an, Shandong Province, China. His parents were both geological engineers working in the mining industry. In 4th grade, young Eric collected construction scraps to recycle copper for cash. He was not academically gifted in his early years, preferring time with friends and games over rigorous study. But everything changed when he fell in love. As a university student, Eric began dating his girlfriend, Sherry. The problem was the distance. Visiting her required 10-hour train rides that left him exhausted and longing for a better way. Sitting on those endless journeys, he began to dream. What if there was a device where he could just click a button and see her face and talk to her without traveling? He was 18 or 19 years old. That daydream would eventually change how the entire world communicates. Eric earned his bachelor's degree in applied mathematics from Shandong University of Science and Technology, and his master's in geological engineering from China University of Mining and Technology. He married Sherry at age 22 while still a graduate student. Then in 1994, while working briefly in Japan, he attended a speech by Bill Gates about the internet. Eric knew immediately that he had to get to Silicon Valley. He applied for a United States visa. Rejected. He applied again. Rejected again. Over 2 years, Eric Yuan was rejected 8 consecutive times. Most people would have surrendered to fate. Eric Yuan applied a 9th time. Finally, in 1997, at age 27, he arrived in California with limited English, but an extraordinary ability to write code. He joined WebEx as one of its first 20 hires and rose rapidly, building the engineering team from 10 people to over 800 and helping grow revenue from 0 to $700 million. When Cisco acquired WebEx for $3.2 billion in 2007, Eric became corporate vice president of engineering. He was earning 6 figures and had achieved the American dream by any conventional measure. But he kept hearing the same complaints from customers. The video conferencing technology simply wasn't good enough. In 2011, Eric pitched Cisco leadership on a revolutionary smartphone-friendly video conferencing system. They rejected his proposal. So Eric Yuan did what immigrants who have been rejected before know how to do. He bet on himself. He left Cisco, borrowed money from friends and family despite his wife's concerns about risking everything, and founded Zoom Video Communications. The company launched its beta in September 2012 with Stanford University as its first customer. Eric personally responded to every unhappy customer's email until 2015. In January 2017, Zoom achieved unicorn status after raising $100 million from Sequoia Capital. In April 2019, Zoom went public. The stock soared 72% on its first day of trading. Eric Yuan was finally a billionaire. Then came the pandemic. As COVID-19 forced billions into isolation, Zoom transformed from successful startup to essential global infrastructure. Daily users exploded from thousands to hundreds of millions. Eric's net worth peaked above $20 billion. Time named him Business Person of the Year and included him in the 100 most influential people of 2020. The man who was rejected 8 times had built the platform that kept humanity connected when connection mattered most. At number 4, we have the world's youngest self-made billionaire, a prodigy who dropped out of MIT, built a company essential to training every major artificial intelligence system on Earth and became the voice of AI in Washington before his 30th birthday. Alexander Wang was born in January 1997 in Los Alamos, New Mexico, the secretive desert town where the atomic bomb was created. His parents were Chinese immigrants who worked as physicists at Los Alamos National Laboratory on military defense projects. Growing up in that intellectually rarefied environment, young Alexander displayed extraordinary aptitude for mathematics and programming from an early age. He taught himself to code via the internet. In 6th grade, he entered the Math Counts competition, initially motivated by the prospect of winning a trip to Disney World. He went on to rank among the top 30 in the USA Mathematical Olympiad and became a finalist in the USA Computing Olympiad. Alexander enrolled at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology to study computer science and mathematics. But by age 17, he was already working full-time at the question and answer website Quora, where he met Lucy Guo, a Thiel Fellow who would become his co-founder. In 2016, still a sophomore, Alexander dropped out of MIT to launch Scale AI, a company that would provide the critical data labeling infrastructure needed to train machine learning models. The early years were difficult. Investors saw a saturated market and a teenager with no track record, but Alexander persisted, building a global network of data annotators and signing clients like GM Cruise, Alphabet, Uber, and Procter & Gamble. In 2020, Scale AI won a $90 million contract from the United States Department of Defense. By 2022, he had signed a $250 million federal procurement agreement. That same year, Scale AI raised $325 million at a valuation of $7.3 billion. Alexander Wang became the youngest self-made billionaire in the world at age 25. His influence now extends far beyond Silicon Valley. He has testified before Congress, briefed lawmakers on the competitive threat from Chinese AI, and attended President Trump's second inauguration in January 2025. He has met with world leaders, including the British Prime Minister, the Indian Prime Minister, and the French President. In June 2025, Meta acquired 49% of Scale AI for $14.3 billion, doubling the company's valuation to $29 billion. Alexander stepped down as CEO to lead Meta's new superintelligence division. The son of Chinese immigrant physicists had become one of the most powerful figures in artificial intelligence. Our bronze medalist isn't just one of the wealthiest Chinese-American executives in technology. She is the woman who pulled AMD back from the brink of irrelevance and transformed it into a company that now challenges the mightiest chip makers on Earth. And, remarkably, she happens to be the distant cousin of our #1 entry. Lisa Su was born in November 1969 in Tainan, Taiwan. Her father was a mathematician who brought the family to the United States when Lisa was just 3 years old, so he could attend graduate school in New York. He used to quiz her with math tables at the dining room table. That's how she first fell in love with numbers. As a teenager, Lisa dreamed of becoming a concert pianist. She wasn't good enough, she later admitted, so she became an engineer instead. Lisa earned her bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees in electrical engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, focusing her research on silicon-on-insulator semiconductor manufacturing technology. She worked at Texas Instruments, rose to vice president at IBM's Semiconductor Research and Development Center, and held leadership positions at Freescale Semiconductor. Then in 2012, she joined AMD as senior vice president. 2 years later, she was appointed president and CEO, becoming the first woman to lead the company. The AMD she inherited was a company in crisis. Stock price hovered around $2 to $3 per share. Market capitalization sat at roughly $3 billion. Competitors had written AMD off. Lisa Su saw opportunity where others saw obsolescence. She developed a strategic vision centered on high-performance computing and led the creation of the Ryzen, EPYC, and Threadripper and Turer and Garin Threadripper processor lines. The results were nothing short of astonishing. AMD stock rose from approximately $3 to over $140. Market capitalization soared from under $5 billion to over $200 billion. AMD overtook Intel in market cap for the first time in history. Revenue reached $25.8 billion in 2024. Time named her CEO of the year twice, in 2014 and 2024, making her the first woman to receive that honor more than once. And now, we have arrived at the #1 richest Chinese American family in Silicon Valley. Indeed, one of the wealthiest families in the entire world. With a staggering net worth of approximately $152 billion, Jensen Huang isn't just the richest person on this list. He has become the architect of the artificial intelligence revolution itself. Jensen Huang was born on February 17, 1963 in Tainan, Taiwan. At age 9, his parents sent him and his older brother to America to live with an uncle in Tacoma, Washington. They sold nearly all their possessions to afford boarding school tuition. But the uncle made a catastrophic mistake. He accidentally enrolled the boys in the Oneida Baptist Institute in Kentucky, a reform school for troubled youth, rather than the prestigious academy he believed it to be. At age 10, Jensen lived in a dormitory and cleaned toilets alongside juvenile delinquents. 2 years later, his parents immigrated and the family settled in Oregon. Jensen attended Aloha High School, skipped 2 grades, graduated at 16, and became a nationally ranked table tennis player. At 15, he got his first job at a local Denny's, working the graveyard shift as a dishwasher, busboy, and waiter. He washed the living daylights out of those dishes, he would later recall. "No task is beneath me. I've cleaned more toilets than all of you combined." Jensen earned his electrical engineering degrees from Oregon State and Stanford, where he met his wife Lori as lab partners. In 1993, he and 2 friends from Sun Microsystems met at a Denny's in East San Jose to formulate a business plan. Jensen chose Denny's because it was quieter than home and had cheap coffee. They founded NVIDIA on his 30th birthday, fulfilling a vow he had made to Lori that he would become a CEO by 30. Initial capital was $40,000. The lawyer demanded the $200 in Jensen's pocket to incorporate the company. NVIDIA nearly went bankrupt multiple times in the 90s. Then, in 1999, Jensen invented the graphics processing unit, revolutionizing computer graphics. He celebrated by getting the NVIDIA logo tattooed on his shoulder when the stock hit $100. He cried like a baby. But the real transformation came when Jensen saw that GPUs could power artificial intelligence. He pivoted the company toward AI when others called it foolish. That decision created the most valuable company on Earth. In July 2025, NVIDIA became the first company to achieve a $4 trillion market capitalization. By late 2025, it crossed $5 trillion. Jensen Huang's net worth reached $152 billion, making him the 8th richest person in the world. The boy who cleaned toilets in a Kentucky reform school had built the company that powers every major AI system on the planet. From ChatGPT to autonomous vehicles to scientific breakthroughs, behind it all is NVIDIA. Behind NVIDIA is Jensen Huang, the immigrant dishwasher who became the architect of the future. From Jensen Huang's world-spanning semiconductor empire to Eric Yuan's technology that connected humanity during its darkest hours, these stories paint a vivid and inspiring picture of what's possible in 21st century America. What are the common threads that bind these incredible journeys? The patterns are unmistakable and profound. We see, first, an unwavering commitment to technical excellence. Whether it's Jensen Huang's relentless focus on GPU architecture, the Xi brothers' pioneering work in network security, or Lisa Su's transformational leadership at AMD, these families built their fortunes on deep technical mastery, not financial engineering or inheritance. We see, second, the power of partnership. John Tu and David Sun, Ken and Michael C., Jensen Huang and his co-founders at that Denny's booth, Weili Dai and her husband, Sehat Suterja. Again and again, these fortunes were built not by lone geniuses, but by trusted partnerships that weathered storms together. We see, third, an almost superhuman capacity to transform crisis into opportunity. Tu and Sun lost everything on Black Monday, then built a company worth over $20 billion. Eric Yuan was rejected 8 times for a visa, then built the platform that connected the world. These are not tales of smooth ascent, but of resilience forged through failure. And we see, finally, a distinctive immigrant mindset, a willingness to take risks that others won't take, to see opportunities that others can't see, and to work with an intensity that others can't sustain. Reports indicate that the vast majority of America's immigrant billionaires built their fortunes entirely from scratch. These are not stories of inherited wealth or advantaged beginnings. These are stories of pure determination. Together, these families haven't just amassed incredible fortunes. They've built the infrastructure of our digital world, the memory in your devices, the chips training artificial intelligence, the video calls connecting your family, the cybersecurity protecting your data. Look behind any essential technology, and you'll likely find one of the names on this list. So, after that extensive journey through the most powerful Chinese-American families in Silicon Valley, what did you think of our list? Were you surprised by who ultimately came out on top? Was Jensen Huang's story from cleaning toilets in a reform school to $152 billion as inspiring to you as it was to us? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the families who control big tech, don't forget to subscribe for more stories about the people and ideas shaping our world. Thanks for watching.